Okay, good morning, boys and girls. I wanted to give this a run to see if you understand everything that I'll be doing over break and your accountability that's involved. First of all, you need to get out your Chapter 3 workbook, okay, and turn to page 165. Page 165. If at any time during this video you need to start or stop to make sure you have down what I'm saying, go ahead and do that. Okay, so we are talking about absolute value here. Absolute value is they say the absolute value or magnitude of a number is the number's distance from zero on a number line, and that's key right there. The number's distance from zero on a number line. Doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, it's how far from zero the number is, and I've been saying that. So they show us -3. It's 3 units from zero. Yeah, it's a negative, but it's still 3 units from zero, okay? So this little sign right here, this is key, underline that. Absolute value is shown with these two little bars. Those two little bars mean what is the absolute value of -3? Okay, how far from zero is it? All right, let's do a few problems. In 1934, a cargo ship called the Mohican sank off the coast of Florida. Divers today can visit the ship at an elevation of -32. Use a number line to find that's read as the absolute value of -32. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to graph -32. And then I'm going to find its absolute value. Okay, the way I do that is I'm going to come down and graph it first here. So notice that negatives go down 30. This would be 35. It's halfway between. So 32 would be right about there. That's about -32 right there. Okay, then think the distance from zero to the point I graphed is 32 units. So if I were to count these 10, 20, 30, 31, 32, it's 32 units. So the absolute value of -32 is 32. Okay? How far from zero is something? That's what you're asking yourself, the distance from zero. The depth of a diver is her distance below sea level. Remember, below is down, just like up there. Because depth represents a distance, it is never negative. Find the depth of a diver visiting the Mohican and explain how her depth is related to the ship's elevation of -32. So here they're asking us to explain what a diver, this diver right here, it would also be at 32. So you would say the depth of the diver is 32 feet. That means she's down underwater, or he is down underwater 32 feet. Explain how the expression -32, absolute value of -32 relates to the diver's depth. Okay, this tells how far the diver is from, and we don't say zero, because if we're talking about water, we don't say zero. We call that, this is the water, we call this the surface. How far the diver is from the surface. Okay. Let's turn the page. I'm on the top of 166. You can find absolute values of decimals, fractions, and other rational numbers. Again, it's distance from zero. A food scientist tested a new dog food on 5 dogs. Each dog's weight was monitored during the course of the test. The results are shown in the table. Positive values indicated weight gains in pounds, so positive values are weight gains. Negative indicates weight losses. Graph the weight changes on the number line, then find their absolute value. So I'm going to graph 3/4. This is tough. It's a positive. This is divided into 4 equal parts. 3/4 would fall right there. Okay, 3/4. The absolute value of 3/4 is 3/4. Negative 5/8. So we're going to estimate it's coming back this way. Here's 4. 5/8 is equal to, it's a little bit more than half, so it's somewhere right in here. It's a negative 5/8, but it's 5/8 from 0, so it's a positive 5/8. Negative 1 and 7/16, that's a little bit more than half also. That's negative 1 and 7/16, but it is, the key here is it's 1 and 7/16 units from 0. So even though it's a negative number, it's a positive absolute value. 2 and 1/8, somewhere in there. So don't worry so much about the graphing. That is the toughest part of this. They want you to understand that the absolute value is how far from 0 that number is. And negative 3/8, that's not even half. So it's about here. And it's a negative, but it's a positive absolute value. Okay, so the graphing of that is tough because of all the different denominators. We would have to spend a week just working on that. But if you plot them and understand the absolute values, you're good to go. Next, interpret the results. Explain how the absolute value of the positive and negative weight changes relate to the starting weights of the dog. So we would want to do something where we explain what the negatives and positives mean. So they basically told us in the question, negative weight changes are losses of dog weights. Positive are gains. Okay. So we're talking here, what does that really mean? It's about gains and losses of the dog weight. Next example, find all the integers with the absolute value of 7. So remember, that's 7 units from 0. So I'm going to, the distance from 0 to integers with absolute value of 7 is 7 units. Okay. So when I look at 0 and I look 7 units this way, I end up at negative 7. So one of the integers with an absolute value of 7 is negative 7. The other one, when I look at 0 and go 7 units this way, is positive 7. So these two right here, negative absolute value, see the lines? Absolute value of negative 7 and the absolute value of 7, both have an absolute value of 7 because they're the same distance. They're the same distance. This is 7 units that way. This is 7 units that way. They're both 7 units from 0. Okay? That you have to know, both those numbers. Paula says that there are always 2 numbers that have a given absolute value. Is she correct? And that's sort of a yes and a no, but the real answer is no. The only answer, 0, has an absolute value of 0. So, but every other number does. Every other number. Okay, so now let's move to